Shalom! Today we will be reading The Race, written by Sharman Castillo, out of the book Wow Stories, Volume 1, copyright 2007. The announcement.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The class then sat down to listen for announcements. Some of the boys threw spitballs at one another, but a stern look from Mr. Douglas settled them down. Over the PA system, the student announcer cleared her voice and then began to speak.
Move!
Good morning. We would like to wish everyone who has a birthday today, happy birthday and a great day. The seniors dance has been canceled and will be rescheduled at a later date. Also, Mr. Henderson would like to announce that the sign-up forms for anyone who is interested in the 5-mile charity race can be found in the gym in his office today after school. So anyone who wants to run can sign up then. Also, whoever enters the race will receive a prize. But those finishing at the top 10% will get the privilege of meeting 2022's winner, Colby Todd. Woohoo! Who won the gold medal for the 20-mile run. And that's our announcement for today. Bye. To Darnell, it was even more important to meet Colby because he had currently been in the news because of a scandal. He had stood up in an acceptance speech and thanked Yahuah of Yahuah for the honor of allowing him to win his race. It had caused such an uproar with the public that many of his sponsors had withdrawn their support. But he remained firm. Unfortunately, for those who tried to destroy him, their plan backfired, and he gained even more people for the kingdom of the Sharman. People became curious and started to do their own research. So Colby became someone Darnell really wanted to meet. Science class. Troy Adams was a handsome 17-year-old, and he knew it. The girls loved him, and the guys looked up to him and showed him the utmost respect. Troy was athletic and the all-around most likely to succeed, especially athletically. So when he heard the announcement, he thought this would be another great opportunity to add a trophy to his collection. Troy looked over to another student named Ron, who was just as handsome. However, he was not as good looking as him, as far as he was concerned. Unfortunately for Troy, the girls really thought Ron was cute too. Troy thought that this would be a great opportunity to show everyone that he was a better athlete than Ron, so he called him out. "Hey Ron, are you thinking about entering that race?"
Nah, not really, man. I don't really want to take the time to train and stuff.
Ron said over his shoulder.
Really? Or are you just scared?
Too far for the baby to run? Troy laughed. Only a few others joined in. Troy was popular, but maybe his popularity was based on fear as well as his looks.
Nah, man. I'm not afraid. Just didn't matter to me one way or another. It's not a very big deal to me,
Ron said with a shrug.
Well, I'm gonna enter. Why don't you enter so we can see what you got? Yeah, I'll think about it the rest of the day. I don't know if I want to go through all that I have to go through in order to be prepared. When's the actual race?
I think he has time. I think it's in about a month, but the sign-up is today after school. Sarah James spoke up.
Well, I'll think about it,
Ron said.
Your call, man.
Troy challenged back.
This dude's a loser.
Ron turned his head and shook it. Troy could be so arrogant. People simply allowed him at times to do as he pleased so that they could avoid confrontation. Ron hated that Troy had singled him out because he was very unimpressed with Troy. So, the fact that he had challenged him to a race really didn't mean anything to him. He thought he might just enter the race so that he could condition himself. He would think about it the rest of the day, though.
The sign up. Look at that fat dude signing up.
Troy was laughing at Darnell as he bent over the sign-up sheet.
What's your purpose, dude? Who's gonna carry your fat behind when you pass out? Do you think they'll have a tow truck next to the ambulances?
Troy laughed loudly, and so did some of the others with him. Darnell stood up and turned his face to Troy. His cheeks were red with embarrassment.
I know it looks funny to someone like you to see me enter this race, Troy, but I'm gonna make it. So keep laughing. I don't care.
Darnell ran away from the sign-up desk.
You're such a jerk, Troy. When you make jokes like that, you only make yourself look like a fool.
Ron shouldered Troy as he made his way up to the desk. After Ron added his name to the list of contestants, he glanced at Troy one last time and then walked away.
Who you calling fool? You want a piece of me?
Troy puffed out his shoulders and then punched himself in the chest.
What an idiot. That doesn't intimidate me. I'm not gonna fight you. I don't need to fight someone to prove I'm a man. I'm a man because I have character, which you lacked.
Ron then walked off.
I can't wait for that race to get here. I'll show that fool who's better.
We all know.
Troy then turned to his friends who agreed with him.
It's kind of hot, though, you know.
Training.
The next day after school, Darnell began working out. He decided that he would start out with stretches and then work himself up to running 2 laps. Ron was a runner, period. When he had lived in Germany with his parents before being stationed back in the United States, he ran cross country. So getting into shape would not be too hard for him. But it did take dedication. As Ron was running around the track, he saw Darnell out in front of him. He had to admit that Darnell looked like an unlikely candidate, but with perseverance and dedication, he could do it. He picked up his pace in order to catch up with Darnell.
Hey, Darnell. Hold up. See, you're really working hard at this running thing,
Ron said. Darnell had to catch his breath, but he managed to squeeze out,
Yeah, this is my first time training, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll eventually get it. I wouldn't have entered if it hadn't have been for the fact that I could meet Colby Todd,
Darnell said with a smile.
Well, there's nothing to it. I'll be here every day after school, so you can train with me. How about that?
Ron asked.
Wow, I would like that a lot.
Darnell couldn't believe that Ron Anderson had volunteered to help him with his training. Ron was so cool.
Well, after you run this lap, go ahead and do some more stretches and then walk home. Don't do too much today. Tomorrow we'll start the hard stuff.
Ron then ran off in front of Darnell.
Okay, Ron. See you tomorrow,
Darnell shouted. Just then, Darnell heard laughter and looked up into the bleachers where Troy and his friends sat laughing at him.
Look at that fat cow trying to run. You look so pathetic. Why don't you just give up?
Shouted Troy. Darnell didn't say a word. He just kept running. He wished he could be like Troy and not train at all, but he knew in his heart that he wouldn't make it if he didn't. It took all of his might just to do these 2 laps. So the training began. Every day after school, Ron would be there to coach Darnell. Darnell began to respond to Ron's coaching techniques. He was even able to run 3 miles at a great pace by week 3. Every day after school, Troy was there faithfully to tease them both. Ron encouraged Darnell to ignore Troy because it was actually doing very well. Darnell had even lost 15 pounds. The only thing that Ron regretted is that by the time of the race, he would have only gotten Darnell up to running about 4 miles. He would be on his own for the race. Troy, on the other hand, rarely ran or trained that whole month. So man, when are you gonna start training? It's been like 3 weeks, and all I've seen you do is some stretching and 2 or 3 laps around the track, Clarence asked. Clarence was one of Troy's closest friends. I don't really need to train so much. I probably just need to exercise and stuff. I won't really need to work out till probably about a couple of days before the race, Troy bragged to anyone who would listen. I guess you know best. You're the runner. But why are they working so hard and you're just chilling? Clarence wanted to know. Because they're losers. And losers have to work harder in order to run with the big dogs, Clay. You should know that. Troy was looking at Clarence as if he had lost his mind. 2 days before the race, Troy started running around the track and found that it was easy to run the mile. Troy figured that if he could run the mile that fast and that well, then training was really unnecessary. So he stopped and decided to just kick it. It was, after all, only a 5-mile race. He could easily ace that race. Race day. The crowd gathered around the starting gate for the run. The starting gate had been positioned 4 miles away from the school campus, and the last mile would be run at the school track by running 4 laps. The contestants were scattered throughout the clearing in little groups talking. I want you to know, Darnell, that I'm very proud of you. I mean, man, you have come a long way. So be proud of yourself, too. Ron slapped Darnell on the back. I am very happy, and I'm glad that you took the time to help me. No one has ever done what you have done for me before. No problem. That was the moment that Troy decided to make himself known. He, along with Clarence, walked up to Darnell and Ron laughing. Hey, losers, what's up? Troy cackled. No, really, what's up? Look, Troy, I don't want any problems from you. I just want to run my race and finish. That's it, Darnell said. Well, you're wasting your time. This is a race filled with people who run every year, and you're out of your league, my friend. Troy snickered and walked away. Look, man, don't worry about it. You'll do very well. We're gonna run together. That way we'll start out at a steady pace. We'll do that for about the first 4 miles, and then after that we'll pick up the pace. At that point, you'll probably be very tired, but you won't be as tired as the rest of the runners, who I believe will probably start out really fast. So keep up with me. And I kind of get feeling of, what your pace is, so just keep up with me, okay? Oh man, I can't let you run slowly with me. Just go ahead and run your race, and then I'll just do the best that I can, Darnell told Ron. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. Over the excitement of the people standing near to the start of the race came the sound of a man speaking through a bullhorn. Okay, runners, all runners, you have exactly 5 minutes before the race begins. So if you still don't have a number, I suggest you go and get one now, or you'll be disqualified. 5 minutes later, the runners positioned themselves behind the starting gate. Ron could see Troy pushing his way to the front. Both he and Darnell were close to the back. On your mark, get set, go! The runners took off at a fast pace, all except Ron and Darnell, that is. They didn't exactly go slow, but they did it at a pace that was comfortable. The first mile was easy, and so was the second mile. They passed up many of the runners who had started out running very fast. Some were now walking, and some were bent over holding their sides. Others had slowed down to a slow jog. Still, Ron and Darnell kept their steady pace. About the beginning of the 4th mile, they ran into Troy, who was walking with his arms raised above his head
and his hand supporting the back of his head. He was breathing very hard. When he saw Ron and Darnell run by, he was too tired to make a mean remark. He had to just watch them pass by. Sweat was dripping off Darnell's forehead into his eyes. He wanted to stop and rest so bad. He wanted to give up because he was so tired. Finally, not being able to take it any longer, he said, "I can't go on anymore, Ron. I'm tired." Ron had mentally prepared himself for this race and had worked so hard that it was really just a nice jog for him. He knew the real race would begin at the track, but when he heard Darnell say what he did, it broke his concentration. "No, Darnell, I'm not going to let you do this to yourself. You've come too far to turn back now. You've worked too hard, man. Keep your eyes on the prize. On the prize." Ron looked up and said, "Look, Darnell, there's the school. All those people are waiting for us. And look, man, there are only 5 people in front of us.
Really?
You can do this. Think of the prize and all that you've had to do to get here." Ron hit him on the back and continued, "When we hit that track, man, I'm sprinting the rest of the way. I don't know what you're gonna do. If you're gonna sprint, if you're gonna jog, but I do know this. You are gonna make it. Do you hear me?" Ron then smiled. Darnell smiled back. As they passed the screaming crowd that led to the entrance of the track field, Darnell thought of all the people who had laughed at him when he had signed up. He then thought of the hard training he'd gone through. Darnell then thought of all the weight he had lost. He could feel his feet moving faster. He also thought of Ron and how he had never given up on him and how he had encouraged him throughout this whole training process. His back became a little straighter, and he thought about the prize. Meeting Colby Todd face to face, which was his lifelong dream. He took on a new determination. Darnell thought to himself that he hadn't come this far to turn back now. Of course, as soon as he had entered the track field, Ron had shot out like a bullet and was now on his way to being in first place. And that still left only 5 runners in front of him. However, as he kept moving, he passed up 3 of those runners. He kept on running, and though his legs became a little wobbly, he kept on going, and he did something he had never done in his entire life. He finished the race. Not only did he finish the race, but he also placed by coming in 4th place. Ron came in 1st place, and then there were 2 other runners, and then him. Darnell was so happy that he couldn't think straight. As soon as he crossed the finish line, Ron was there to hug him and to help him jog down to a walk and finally to a stop. The crowd clapped and cheered for all of them. It was an unbelievable day for him. It took an hour before the rest of the runners were able to assemble and the awards were given out. Troy Adams never showed up. It was said that he was so humiliated that he didn't bother to finish the race. He just went home. I guess he should have worked out. As for the others, they were all given ribbons for their participation, and the top 4 were given trophies. Ron was given the largest one, and the next size was given to the 2nd place, and so on. Ron and Darnell and all of the other top 10 runners were all escorted to their school's gym, where they all received the best gift of all. They met Colby Todd. Wow, perseverance. We are all in a race, and we cannot expect to be successful if we only pick up our swords, which is our Bibles, ever so often. We need to praise our Abba Yahuah. Our Ruach needs to work out. We need to feed our hearts and our souls, and we need to trust in Yeshua, our Mashiach. We have to follow Abba's laws, statutes, and commandments. That's a part of the race. Don't give up. Stay the course. You've come too far to give up now. You have a cloud of witnesses in heaven cheering you on. And like Ron, Yeshua is cheering you and me on. He certainly hasn't brought you this far
to let you give up on yourself. So we will see you at the finish line. Wow. All right. And all praises to our Abba Yahuah and our King Yeshua, who is our Mashiach. Let me tell you, we are in a race and we have to persevere. Even myself, as I'm finishing up the session right here, as I was doing the wow part, I was like, you know what? Thank you, Abba, because I've been going through something so drastic. And I have to realize, it's not only a race for, the stories that I give, but these things mean something. All of the stories that I write have a little bit of personal in it from me, myself, like little sheep. I feel like I'm the little sheep who's walked away from the fold and the Most High has had to come and get me. Yeshua's had to come and fetch me. The little clay pot. For a long time, I've been doing things, that I thought were for the Most High, and it felt like I was always being put on the back shelf, but Yah has a plan for me. And then here in the race, and there's other stories too that I've done, but here in this story, perseverance, stay the course. The battle is really in our minds. So brothers and sisters and little Yelodim, I hope and pray that you stay the course. Don't give up. Satan has a lot of plots and plans and fiery darts that he shoots at us. But greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. And remember, Yeshua said, I have already overcome this world. So we're just walking out this plan that Yah has for us, and he is walking with us. And when it gets too rough and too hard, he is carrying us. So have no fear, just trusting Yah. So please subscribe, and please like and share. And let somebody else know about these stories, because they all have a meaning. I'm not just speaking to speak. But until next time, I love you very much, and I have many more stories for you. So what do we always say at the end of our stories? Shalom.